Hello, you guys. It's Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are going to talk about the Sun through Cancer cycle of 2019. Huge, huge cycle coming on the heels of all the intense mutable crossing and heading right into some intense eclipses. I have all the details in the charts. Here are the start times for each section of this video, so get comfortable and enjoy. All right, in this section, I'm going to walk you through some charts as usual. Pardon the paper shuffling if you hear that. And then in the second section, we'll go into more detail. But this is a big cycle. So as usual, let's look at chart number 1, which is the day that the sun moves into Cancer, that those of us in the northern hemisphere know as summer solstice, and those of you in the southern hemisphere know as winter solstice. So we are moving into Cancer, the cardinal water sign. And the biggest thing in this chart that should jump out at everyone is the huge tug of war that is happening between the planets in Cancer and the planets in Capricorn. Of course, this has been a big theme all year, and this cycle really puts the emphasis on it. As usual, your water signs are in blue, your earth signs are in the green, so that's everything in Capricorn there, plus Uranus in Taurus. Your fire signs will be in yellow, and your air signs, where we have Venus back there, are in the gray color. So on this chart, speaking of Venus, Venus is still in that mutable energy. And for those of you coming off the big mutable square, I'm sure if you are a Gemini, Virgo, Sag, or Pisces, you had a big cycle while the sun went through Gemini, and everybody with stuff in their charts at 18 degrees, that was huge. And as this cycle starts, we're getting the last T-square. So if you'll notice, right when I pulled this chart, this is of course the moment the sun goes into Cancer, changing signs. And in this chart, the moon is in the late degrees of Aquarius. However, you know that the next sign that the moon goes into after Aquarius is Pisces, our fourth mutable sign and the water mutable sign. So that creates our T-square. So it's on the 22nd, the moon goes into Pisces. On the 23rd, Venus, if you trace it right across the chart, it's going to oppose Jupiter in Sagittarius. That is an opposition. And both of these are mutable. And then the next day, Venus is going to square Neptune. So we have, again, the big T square happening because of that Pisces moon and because of Venus first opposing Jupiter and then squaring Neptune. So ouch. But the good thing is this is the last of that. So as we start this cycle, we will finish the tail end of the terrible T-squares. That's what I'm calling them. Okay, and so that I want you to notice, and I also again want you to notice the watery energy that's happening here with everything in Cancer, and of course with Neptune there in Pisces for the whole cycle. Eventually we're going to get a nice sun trine to Neptune a little later in the cycle, but those are kind of the highlights, and I just want you to really see that tug of war that's happening. And let's go to chart number 2, because this one is really where we're in the energy that we're going to be dealing with for the Cancer cycle. It's just so big. So chart number 2 is for the first of 2 eclipses. So when we get to this chart, you'll see that Mars and Mercury have both left Cancer. However, look at Venus, a very late degree of Gemini here, meaning she is coming into Cancer next to pick up the slack. And for those of you who really follow astrology, you'll know that we're in the shadow period of Mercury's next retrograde. In this chart, we're like, yay, it's in Leo. And we're like, yeah, it's going backwards. It's going to start a retrograde this cycle. I'll give you the dates in a second. But this is, the essence of this cycle. These eclipses, again, this huge tug of war going on between Cancer and Capricorn. We had shades of it in June. While Mars was in Cancer, I told you to pay attention kind of the 14th, 16th, and 19th. With Mars and Mercury in Cancer, they were opposing Pluto and Saturn. And so now this energy shifts. It's an eclipse, so new moon, and it is a full eclipse. So lots of intensity here. 10 degrees, so everybody at 18 degrees gets a little break. Yay! But still strong pull. I'll go into what that means. I just want you guys to get your bearings. And of course, with Mars in Leo, it's left the Cancer party. That's on July 1st. And here's a postcard with the planets changing signs. And the thing that you're gonna notice is around this eclipse, wow, everything happens. Mars changing signs on the 1st. Big eclipse here on the 2nd. Venus changing signs on the 3rd, and on the 4th, wow, it is going to be the North Node opposite Saturn. This is our second one of that series of 3 this year. For a lot of these big aspects, we're getting through 2 and 3 of them during the year, so it's like really a chance to, you didn't get it the first time, get it again. And so this is a really big time period, and that is going to bring me to chart number 3, because on chart number 3 we're going to get to the second eclipse. And this, I'm only doing 3 charts this video, but you're going to see Mercury, that's in Leo, has begun its retrograde. The retrograde is the 7th through the 31st. So the Mercury retrograde, as you can see, it actually goes back into Cancer. And so that means we are dealing with these themes just throughout the cycle. So that tension there that, is obvious from all these charts. You look at everything up there in that right-hand corner in Cancer, again, opposite. Here is the full moon, 24 degrees of Capricorn, eclipse July 16th. So again, the reverberations just keep going out. The last thing that I want to share about chart number 3 is not only is Mercury retrograde, but look at all the planets that are retrograde on this chart. You'll see the little red R's, and that's in this program which shows you what is retrograde. But just look at all the things we're reviewing. So this isn't just Mercury out on its own. We've got Saturn and Pluto there with that full moon. So they're again pulling up the past, and Cancer is all about the past. But we've got Neptune as well, Jupiter. So lots of retrogradation and everything that means. I'll explain a little more in part 2. But what we've done, if you go from chart number 1 to 2 to 3 here later in the cycle of Cancer, almost towards the end, we've shifted out of the intense mutable energy into the cardinal. So I will explain that in part 2 when we get into what the charts mean. But I just like for you guys to see it so you can follow along and see how it looks in the charts. Okay, so let's jump into part 2. All right, you guys, for the interpretation, what I like to do is just break it down into some of the basic components, because we start with what the particular things are, a planet or a sign. Then we start to put that together in relationship to the other planets and the other signs, and we try to see if a theme is emerging. And clearly this is such a Cancerian cycle, not just the sun, but obviously so strong, with Mars leading us in there, then Mercury going in and coming back and really staying in Cancer through August 11th there, I believe is the date on that. So just a really big cycle for Cancer and themes. So what is Cancer? Here's some postcards. It is our cardinal water, and what we deal with are emotions, and it being cardinal, it has that initiating, if you've ever known Cancer, is they just don't stop. It seems more subtle, but there's definitely a drive with them. They may walk sideways like the crab, but they're definitely trying to go forward. I think they're always kind of reading the emotional temperature. They're very intuitive, kind of read the psychic or emotional aspect of a room or in relationships and people, and then try to navigate in and within around that. So it's got that fluid thing, but there, mark my words, there's an aggression. There is an assertive quality to them. So all the nurturing, sweet, like things are there as well. But, for those of you who know them well, that there's also a side that can, that also is very intent on what it wants to do. So when we're dealing with this, we're also dealing with issues of motherhood, children, the welfare of others, caretaking. Those things may be coming up in your life because opposite them are Saturn and Pluto. Saturn has to do with aging, the elderly, parenting. So, some people are in situations where they've got to take care of an older parent, or, on the other end of the scale, you may have new little ones to take care of. This cycle will bring a lot of that to the fore. When we deal with Cancer, Capricorn oppositions too, we're dealing with, the need to nurture versus the need to go out into the world. The Capricorn aspect deals with accomplishments, achievements, attaining goals. And so, we can be torn between those two things, our value, wealth, what's important, is the domestic front, the priority, or is the going out into the world and achieving things, what we're seeking. And again, with so much in retrograde, one of the things I talked about in my blog, and I still think and it's really proven to be true, all the stuff about children and trafficking and law and order, Saturn, law enforcement getting in, and Pluto looking at the ugly underside of human slavery and the new forms it's taken in the world. And we've got a lot of corruption that, of course, Pluto is digging up along with law enforcing Saturn, and it's about how we take care of each other here. So big stuff. I think we'll just blockbuster stuff probably coming out with these eclipses. But in your own life, what this cycle says to me, and again, depending on your chart, you may be very mildly impacted, and you may have gotten a lot last month if you have a lot of mutable energy in your chart, or if you're a cardinal. This is your Aries, your Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. If you're one of those signs, or you want to pull up your chart and see what's in one of those 4 cardinal signs, it's about to get these oppositions and squares, meaning it's your turn to go through the sort of like pressure points, and again, I think of them as like astrological acupuncture. The needle comes in and it pulls all the goo out and pushes it out and shifts the energy. But what we're all really talking about through that June, July cycle, a little bit into August of this year, is what you needed to shed, what you needed to release, what wasn't working anymore, and the new place you're going to stake out. Cancer also deals with home, so you may be shifting home and have to move, or dealing in real estate, and nicely aspected with Uranus and Taurus there. There's a nice complement there that I've been talking about all year. So again, big themes, but with 2 eclipses during this cycle, I think push will come to shove, particularly on your cardinal points in your chart. And for the cardinal people, cardinal rising, cardinal moon, you're going to feel this cycle really intensely, kind of like the mutables went through it in June. And if you are a mutable who went through a lot in June, now is where you'll start to land. It's all going to be okay. So mutables, you're kind of, you finish up the sort of tossed about or tornado type of cycle we went through, and now we start landing. And also we have to throw in here during this cycle, we have the celebration of the lunar landing, nice 50 years, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, so a lot of focus on the moon, especially this year. And that's, from astrology, we think of it as our inner feelings, that gut feeling, again, that ability to read people, read a room, and to follow that when, you know, you're looking at things or considering options and things don't feel quite right. It's got a lot on paper that may look right. It's maybe you have to make a decision, but you're just like, this key is just, psychic key is just not fitting in this other lock. And so until the key fits in the lock intuitively, and you have that nice Cancerian, like, yes, this is the one that excites me, you know, hold off. And particularly while the retrograde's there, you know, if you need to, just, you know, make sure that you're clear. But this should be the cycle when things start to line up. And again, we're all being guided by the North Node, saying, my mind might not know, my intellect may not know, but my soul knows. My soul knows my past. So if you know, the confusion's a little unsettling, always defer to your higher self and your wisdom, and you know, let that be your guide, and that wonderful intuition that you will feel throughout your body. It's not even about an emotion, it's about a peace that comes when you know you've hit the right solution. So that is what's coming in. Let me talk to you about resources. All right, I'm Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I give readings, we do charts, and I'm going to do a little theme this month where I give you a copy of your chart and a natal report with any order. So if you pop over to Elizabeth's Oracle while the sun is in Cancer, you know, when we email and schedule, I'll make sure that you have a copy of your chart and a natal report, which explains what it is with your reading, any order. And you can always do it on Friday. You guys know we do Free Minute Friday. Yay! You get 5 minutes with any order you place on a Friday. You can have the reading anytime, and that's just a little thing I like to do for fun. So yeah, we'll do the natal thing this month, and so feel free to contact me over at elizabethsoracle.com, and the email address is in the description link. I've also been blogging a lot. I sort of started it this year, restart it to see if I was going to stick with it or whatever. And it seems to be one of those things that just, you know, I'm really enjoying the writing as I get into it. I've also launched on Instagram, very like modestly trying to figure out that space, but I'm over there. So all of this is always in the description box. So latest articles, just keep popping over to the site to check for those. Also, you can sign up for a free monthly newsletter, and that always is a reminder about the videos. And of course, you can hit like and subscribe here. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified each month. I just do a full video once a month because there's just so much going on. I can't do them that, you know, much more frequently. But to give you that overview when the sun changes signs. And so I think those are all the announcements, other than I will be back when the sun goes into Leo. And hope you guys are doing well. Hope this is a big positive cycle for you, and that things, everything that shook itself out during the intense mutable energy and the energy that is kind of at the beginning of this cycle, still shaking things out, leaving things behind. I hope that you know where you're landing as we do the Cancer cycle, it brings you a lot of joy and a lot of peace, and that's just the beginning of a great new phase for you. So we'll see you when the sun goes into Leo, and thank you so much for watching.